Need to get a drink. By the way, 7-Up is the official drink of Squad 101. Probably everybody thought it was going to be iced tea, but no. I've been kind of on a 7-Up kick for the last couple days. Alright, so, 13th seat goes by the name of Mr. Tom Powter. Bleed Akumane, which roughly translates as Crying Devil. I don't know if it does. You can see the design in the file. Oh, see right there. I don't think... Do I have your picture? I do not have your picture. Damn. I apologize for that. You can send me your picture because, like I said, I received so many things, and it got... I eventually ended up having like 7 different folders, 7 different subfolders to the contest in my Gmail, and it was just a massive cluster screw at some point, so... of course, I'm sorry if I lost some pictures along the way, but I probably still have it in there somewhere. I can maybe if I find it, I'll add it in. But otherwise, maybe if I don't show it, then send it to me. All right. So the ability is bloodletting. Akumane Shikai has the ability to double the blood lost by the opponent struck by it. Okay, that's interesting ability. Say for example, Akumane strikes the opponent's shoulder and a jet of blood spurts out. Well, if you cut somebody's shoulder, a jet of blood would not spurt out. But anime logic, I get where you're going with this. The amount of blood loss would be doubled. Okay, kind of like similar to how Kyoraku used his Kageoni ability. Because in Kageoni, if you get cut in a certain color the right way, even if it's just like a small little paper cut, like blood will just like spray out. So kind of like sort of like that. This leads to the opponent becoming sluggish and vapid quickly and makes for the gory battles, which is which has become renowned for across the Soul Society. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you guys also sent me in like really cool histories and everything about your characters, like background information. I gave you the background information for the squad, so if that contradicts anything, I'm sorry, but that's the background information I came up with. You can kind of keep, you can still keep your stories and everything. Okay, so... Okay, a little scenario may explain it better. Opponent gets slashed by Akumane, a torrent of blood escapes. I lost more blood than I expected from such a shallow cut. What's going on here? Okay, so you're doing sort of like a thing in battle. Okay, weaknesses, its range. Akumane is a cleaver predominantly. Okay, that's cool. Through a slightly oversized one. Regardless of the sword, is shorter than the regular steel katana, meaning the wielder has to get up close and personal to use these effectively. The spirit of Akumane may look harmless, but it's devious and parasitic. The power of Akumane comes at a price. Every cut dealt during a fight, the wielder is sapped of some stamina. Okay, so the more you use it, the more you get tired, and of course, you have to, in order to damage the opponent, so you have to kind of get close to use it, of course. So basically, it's going around, running around just like a meat cleaver. Like, go to your kitchen if you have one, pick up a meat cleaver, and it's just like, yeah, I wonder how effective this would be in an actual fight, you know, across, you know, wide area. Maybe in close combat that would be cool, that would be effective, but otherwise you're going to be a little problematic. Okay, so the spirit is parasitic too, which is interesting. A lot of people sent me in like, oh yeah, my spirit is like really super evil, and so we don't get along very well. I kind of... Not saying I don't like that sort of stuff, it's just that you have to understand, a lot of people did the same thing. You know, a lot of people want to be very, you know, like, dark and brooding and be like, you know, I have all this power, but my Zanpakuto is evil, so I don't like using my power. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm not saying I didn't put you on the list for that reason, I'm just saying at the same time that's a very kind of cliche plot device that a lot of people have used. This one's not exactly saying it's straight out evil, it's just kind of saying it's parasitic or it saps your energy. It's not saying it's evil, it's just saying it's kind of devious, but a lot of people have done the whole thing. I know I'm kind of cliche with it too, because I'm doing the whole dark mat thing, but if you actually follow, where I actually want to go with that is probably the place you're not going to think of, but it starts off very cliche, I know. I'm just saying, it's kind of a plot device that's been done before. You know, even in Bleach with the whole Hollow Ichigo thing, it was kind of done. I was kind of tired of it by the time I watched it in Bleach. Kind of knew what was going to happen, but you know, whatever. All right, so seat 12 is MuBriggs. My Zanpakuto is called Tenkahimei, Lightning Scream. It's the start of the long line of, I think I have like 3 or 4 in my squad that have lightning abilities. I mean, I like lightning, but I'm just saying. And its Shikai takes the form of a large gold claymore, and its release command is Cry in Anguish. Its special ability allows it, and anything it touches, to surge with electricity at will. The weapon itself is very slow, needs 2 hands to be used effectively, but its main weakness is that the electricity also reflects partly onto me, causing me great pain and preventing me from using 3 or 4 times without needing serious medical attention after. So basically it's like, I have this awesome sword, and it can channel electricity, but at the same time, I'm holding on to it. So it can kind of hurt me too. So you kind of probably you can have to like range the amount of volts or amps that are going through it. A lot of this is like a major problem with a lot of like for example, lightning type Zanpaktos, or I know we only really saw Chojiros, but let's say if you have lightning based abilities or fire based abilities and your sword gets turned into fire or lightning, it's like that doesn't hurt you. I'm like, oh no, because it's specifically not designed to hurt me. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. At least this one has a backlash. My Bankai is named Onishinsi Tenkahimei, Demon Soldier Lightning Scream, and takes the form of a large gold suit of armor akin to the Knight's. Its ability is that the armor surges with electricity. I see what you're going for. You're going for like a medieval type thing here. That's pretty sweet. Its ability is that the armor surges with electricity, and I estimate around 5 times the amount of my Shikai. Unlike the Shikai, it's no longer affected by my own ability. I would say so, because if you're stuck in a suit of armor with a giant claymore, and lightning is surging through that, yeah, you might want to say something there. You could probably come up with like, oh, the lining of my armor prevents it or something. You could come up with something like that. And the sword, of course, would make sense because the sword might not have that protection, but if the armor has like a lining that can prevent it, and of course you're touching the sword with your armor now, of course it wouldn't affect you. The armor, okay, and the armor does not slow me down. Once again, I was going to say like, okay, medieval armor, you have a giant claymore, maybe there's a difference there, but it's anime, it's Bleach, you can always say that, oh, this is like, this is special reishi armor, it's not heavy. The armor can take almost any hit without being damaged in the least. However, the armor has few spots where I'm not protected, namely my neck. That was the main issue, I think, with like medieval type, knightly armor, where the issue, of course, was you have to have your joints free in order to battle. So I think that's where chainmail came in, because chainmail is, they would put chainmail around your neck, around your joints, so that way, even though you're not protected there, you can still get sort of protected if you get hit there by like a knife, because of course, people, the knights and whoever fought against them were not idiots. They knew, like, okay, well, obviously their joints are not protected, so aim for the joints. So, of course, you're going to have that. Also, while my Bankai drains my spiritual power very fast, I can only stay in Bankai for at most 37 seconds in combat conditions. Not sure where you got that number, 37 seconds. You probably just came up with it. But yeah, that's another thing, too. A lot of people came up with, like, time-released abilities. Like, I can only use this ability if there's a full moon, and the stars are aligned, and I can only use it for 10 seconds, but I can end the world if that happens. I'm like, okay, whatever. There was kind of ability very similar to that. But you'd be amazed at how many like apocalypse abilities there were, because there were a few. Which of course you're not going to be in the squad, because I don't want you to blow up the world because I didn't let you, take Thursday off or something. Number 10. Okay, seat number 10. Oh, this is the one I really liked. mrdbznarutofan. Zanpaktou name, Piercing Sheild. Gray blade and a light purple handle. Shikai appearance. A shield that is connected by a cable to a single sword. The shield is black with a gray trim around the shield around the back. The shield is attached to the arm and completely covers the arm from hand to the elbow. The shield's height is about half as long as the average person's height, so okay, I see like a kite shield sort of thing. The cable is black and fairly long for more flexibility, and the handle is dark purple, but the blade is gold. So, I just like this for the sake of it being a defensive type sword, or a defensive type Zanpakuto, because I don't think we've ever seen one of those. Wait, no. We have seen one of those before. It was, I forget his name. It was the guy in the Kasumiyoji arc where he had the ability, he can, like, make 2 fists and, like, make, like, defensive walls in order to defend people. So he had a defense type Zanpakuto, but he's, like, the only person I know that has, like, a defense type. Maybe him and, like, a Zenosuke, because Zenosuke has that chakram. But even in that case, it's not really the same thing. But yeah, this is really cool. Like a shield as a Zanpakuto Shikai. That is freaking badass. Alright. Okay, so, Shikai power. The sword absorbs spiritual pressure. Anything it touches strikes the shield, it absorbs more power. Okay. The longer the person keeps things in contact, the more energy that the shield absorbs. If it's an energy-based attack, such as a Sero hits the shield, it can absorb a large amount of spiritual pressure. The sword continuously stores the spiritual pressure from each attack until the time to attack. Okay, so kind of sort of like the kinetic energy Zanpakuto. So you get hit by the blast or whatever, gets absorbed into the shield, and you can use it later on. It gets transferred to the sword, of course, where you can use the offensive ability. So it's basically like you know, like the shield is like the generator, and you can output it using the sword. It gets like transferred. It's like the shield's like the battery power for the sword. That's kind of cool. Weakness: against an opponent that does not use much spiritual pressure for their attacks, like a normal slash, it would take about 5 strikes to absorb a reasonable amount of energy. Okay, makes sense. In a battle like this, it's best to store energy in the blade, but that's still 5-10 blocks you have to make, leaving yourself vulnerable. Yeah, okay, so basically for the first half of the battle, you're essentially on the defensive. You can't attack, or if you can attack, it won't do shit. So you basically have to let your opponent come to you, which if your opponent is clever enough, they might not necessarily do that. They might not necessarily, like, you go into a battle, be like, hey dude, come on, come on. Oh, you want to come? You want some? Bring it on, man. And, you know, they might be clever and keep their distance, and they might not necessarily come at you full force, so you never know. Another weakness: you can't transfer energy from the shield to the sword while there's energy in the sword. Empty the energy in the sword completely before transferring from the shield to the sword. I see, okay. Alright, I misinterpreted that there, but that makes sense. Problem transfer, okay, it takes a process to transfer the energy over. You can't do that instantly. That takes time. And the last weakness is the shield will break if too much energy is being stored, of course. Okay, that makes sense. He used an example if it was used against Kenpachi or something, especially now, what we know, and the shield can break. Got to make sure to release energy before the shield breaks. Okay, so that makes sense there. Where that goes, that, of course, there's a limit. Once again, meteorite coming toward the planet! I got a shield! Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. No, okay, ninth seat is, this has probably been going on for a long time. Ninth seat is, just Detracuase Belcher for Kyouki no Onkyou. The Shikai name is Kyouki no Onko, the Sound of Insanity. Design of it is 2 pointed sword that resemble a tuning fork, meaning the ability of the sword is manipulation with sound. Okay, sound-based ability, something else we really haven't seen in Bleach before. I mean, I'm sure we have. I'm just saying normally that's not something that's really common. It's usually just some kind of energy attack or something. The ability begins by causing high-frequency sound to manipulate the brain of the opponent, making his or her hearing away just in the high-pitched frequencies. Okay, so it's like a disorientation ability. The frequency manipulates the opponent to believe they are fighting 5 identical versions of the wielder of the Zanpaktou, with only one of them being the real one. All of the illusions will attack the opponent at once, however they cannot kill. Of course only the wielder. Of course they're only illusions. They wouldn't actually be able to damage them, but basically you're getting inside the opponent's head and you're messing with them there. The weakness: the side effect of the Shikai is that the sound manipulation also affects the wielder, but in a different way. The wielder does not suffer from the high-pitched frequencies. However, the body of the wielder, like arms, legs, and shoulders, become paralyzed over time. So, of course, if you're using it over and over again, you know, for a long period of time, you're still being exposed to this kind of sound, which apparently is very hindering. So, you'd eventually, like, you'll get numb and you can't use it anymore. And even if your opponent is disoriented, you wouldn't be able to attack because you're paralyzed. The paralyzation lasts as long as the Shikai is activated and takes the wielder an hour to gain full usage of their body. But the longer the wielder uses Kyouki no Onko, it can cause permanent damage. All right. I can totally see that happening with, like, you're in a fight with somebody and you're just like, I can keep going, I can keep going, I can barely move my arms, but I can keep going. That's kind of neat. Weakness number 2. If the user is surrounded by any kind of prism or structure, oh, right, because sound can ricochet. That's really clever you thought of that. Because if you're fighting, like in some kind of cave or something where it echoes back at you, oh, that's kind of clever right there. However, have to fight. Oh, and then the illusions would be re-brock about it yourself. Okay. However, the first weakness does not affect the wielder if they are hit by their own Shikai. The wielder does not suffer paralysis. I see what you're doing, but okay, that's clever. Interesting thing, you didn't mention the fact that your opponent could just wear earplugs or shut out sound in some other method. But just the fact you thought of the echo ability, that's kind of cool. Bankai. The Bankai release is Hanketsu no Itsu. 50 bells of judgment. This triggered 2 guardians with hammers and a giant bell. The bell falls from the sky down to the opponent, engulfing them in darkness. The person inside the bell cannot hear what's happening on the outside, and they can only hear the earth-shattering ringing of the bell as the guardians strike it 50 times. Okay, so Bankai. Let me understand if I can got this here. Bankai. The hell is that? And a giant-ass bell just falls from the sky, and 2 freaking giants just like appear out of the ground like giant golems wielding huge hammers, and just like bang, bang, 48 more times after that. And yeah, I would imagine that would eventually like just blow out your fucking eardrums at a point. Well, the bell and the screaming of the person affects the air, and the bell turning they claim the air. Okay, they would be ripped to shreds by their own screaming voice. Damn. The weakness. The drawback of this Bankai release is that the bell can be destroyed from the inside, okay, if the opponent is strong enough, okay. Or if the opponent can endure the ringing and the rapid winds after the bell. Yeah, that's another thing, too. If they actually survive 50 times of getting knocked around in this giant freaking bell with, like, winds and their screams and the freaking bell blowing out their eardrums, then maybe they, and their heart maybe not stopping from the freaking stress of the situation, maybe they might have a chance to go at it. Alright, getting into the final stretch here. 8th seat is Raven Kirk with Onkyou, Darkness. Release command is Vanish, or Kiru. Vanish, Onkyou, okay, I could see that. Sealed appearance. In its sealed state, it takes the form of 2 wakizashis. The swords are kept in pitch black sheaths and have a deep purple cloth wrapped around the handle. The subas are shaped like crescent moves in silver. The overall length of the sword is standard length. Wait, is this one I got, oh, this is the long one. I'm just gonna, okay, yeah, I got an ability, I mean, I got a picture for you, and here it goes, here's a picture. It's actually a really cool picture. At the same time, though, this is a really long entry, so I'm just going to kind of glance over it because, once again, I've been at this for like 40 minutes, so I'd really like to, you know, I appreciate it, but I really just wanted to glance over her ability here. Okay, so, Shikai appearance. Upon release, the wakizashis become pitch black. The handles, suba, and blades all become pitch black and look to be made out of shadows themselves. Base ability. Onkyou can manipulate shadows, and all the shadows are under her control. However, if there's more light than shadow, her ability is weakened considerably. Shikai abilities. Okay, it has Disappearance of Shadows. This technique is used when Kizomaru first releases her Zanpakuto. Okay. When she uses this attack, it looks like she's to vanish through a similar way as a holo looks when it's passing through an object. Okay, so basically, transparency, and then there's shadow creation, which masks her Ryatsu, and her shadow spreads out, and it can, like, intercept light. Can you only use once per Shikai. Shadow Spike, that's kind of self-explanatory. Shadow Trap. This technique is when it can snare an opponent with the shadows on the ground, usually by the foot or the ankle. It makes it harder for the enemy to get away and easier for direct hits. The attack can be set while she's hidden in the shadows. Okay. Bankai. Kage Okame, Kage Okame no Jo Onko. Shadow Wolf Queen Onkyou. Bankai appearance. When it's Bankai, Onkyou becomes a Bishon, I guess, are you saying Bishonen Yari? The central blade is pitch black, while the 2 crescent moon-shaped blades are silver. The tachi is solid black, and the shaft is covered deep purple, and it's 4 feet long. Bankai abilities. Hold on. Kage no Shotsutsu. In her Bankai, Kizomaru can remain hidden in the Kizomaru, I guess, is the girl's name that's using the Zanpakuto. Can remain hidden in the shadows for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how long energy she has. Okay, so it's like a hiding ability. Shadow creation is where she can. Oh, it's the same thing from before, where she body intercepting light. Light cannot be removed from the shadow. Okay. Shadow grip, which is more of a powerful version than, I guess, Shadow trap, which is she can. She can bind enemies within the shadows, okay. And Blast of the Shadow Moon, that is a badass technique. Shadyo Suki no Barasato. Blast of the Shadow Moon, that's badass. The technique is Kizomaru's most powerful. She uses it by holding her the sword out in a vertical position in front of her and places her left palm on the back of the blade, concentrating spiritual energy into one powerful blast. She releases it, and the Crescent Moon blade on her Yari, the blade creates its wide. It's about 3 feet to start. However, it travels, it gathers the surrounding shadows, allowing it to reach a maximum of 10 feet in width before striking the enemy. Due to the width, it makes it hard to attack, to dodge, but not impossible. Also, this drains Kizomaru of Ryatsu. Okay, that's pretty cool. These are exhausted afterwards, so it's a badass technique, but you become exhausted. Alright, and weaknesses. Okay, weaknesses. Number 1, daytime. Your weaknesses is daytime, so you're kind of like a vampire. 2, the length of the Shikai blades. Its weakness, in my opinion, because it has to deliver a substantial amount of energy, a substantial amount of damage, one would need to be closer to the enemy, which would be potentially dangerous. Time limit, which we stated that earlier. The weight of the Bankai weapon slows her down, okay, so it's very heavy, and her Bankai is not mastered. And their would-be master would be a lot stronger, but she cannot stay in Bankai without a complete trainer Ryatsu. Okay, so that's very long, but, you know, thank you for taking the time to come up with that, because that was a very clever move there. Next one is, 7th seat, is Skycrown with, oh, this one I like. Saibankai, that's not his it's not his Bankai, it's just called Saibankai la Guillotina. I like this. because it's a Hakuda type weapon, meaning it's a Zanpaktou that is used for hand-to-hand fighting. Sealed. It has a white handle and a squared tsuba with 3 fangs in the front. It's Shikai. Judge, the guillotine. My sword becomes a pair of white, fingerless gloves and a spot on my ankles, giving you a boost of speed. But, and they rely on martial arts. That's what I like about it, because we've seen Keto-type Zanpaktous. We've seen Zanpaktous that have some kind of illusion. We've seen Zanpaktous that even increase your speed, like Ichigo's. We haven't really seen many Zanpaktous that deal with Hakuda in the sense, like Hakuda for yourself. Like Kamamura's is a physical type. You know, you could even say that Love's Tengu Maru is kind of a physical type. But we've never seen a Zanpakuto actually increase the strength of the user. It's always some kind of effect. Probably the one we get closest to that is probably Ichigo. But in this situation, you get gloves and like a cool thing on your ankles, so you're faster, you're stronger, you can like break boulders and everything. He can summon blades from the knuckles and ankles to cleanse the spirit I'm fighting with. So, of course, you don't have a blade, so of course you have to have some way if you're fighting against a hollow or something. So, I would imagine they're not like super huge long blades, like kind of like Wolverine claws, sort of like that. Like would be kind of like a thing. Or you can like I can see like a blade like peering out of your ankle. You can just like, you know, kick something and like slice it in half. That seems pretty badass. The blades are a finishing move and won't appear before that, using the speed boost for 2. Okay, for too long, of course, will drain your power. Alright, and the Zanpakuto Spirit believes in justice. Okay, I just like that Zanpakuto. Just because, okay, so the blades won't show up until you're right about to finish the attack, or, you know, finishing blow or whatever. You maybe, like, build up enough Ryatsu or something before you can use it, kind of like something like that. But I just like that Zanpakuto, just because it's physical. Let's get physical in here.